Okay, welcome everyone. As we are sponsored by Baruch Ian Lila Nishmas Esther Bas Yona Yaakov Chaim Ben Abba Avram Ben Shmuel HaKoyin, by Aaron Swade Lila Nishmas Chana Bas Shmuel and Freda Bas Shaul, by Shimon Deer for the Chayli Adaf and Chayli Yisrael, by Mark Frankel for Shalema, for Miriam Sarah Bas Tzipora and Chana Bas Gittel Esther, by Be'er Goldswasser for Akaras HaToiv, for what Klal Yisrael did for his family and for Kol Chol Yisrael. We want to learn, especially from my Talmud B'Tzalel Klein's father, who is in ICU and is intubated. He had a very rough night last night. He's doing a little better now, but we'll learn from Meir ben Chaya Sarah. We learn for my Shver Avigdor Aye ben Rivka. We learn for Yehuda Cyril Bas Miriam. We also learn for Chaya Tzipora Bas Rezel. And we also learn for Mordechai ben Sarah Yehudis that they should have a refuah shalema b'seich sher chayla Yisrael. We have here in the shul, holding up the fort here at the Good Yisrael of Fairways, as we try to develop an oilam down here. We have Saba, we have Reb Shanit, we have Rich Leonard, Reb Kramer, and Berish Geserman all joining us so far. We expect shortly Gedalia will probably join us. For now, we welcome in Aaron Swade, Yitzi Muller, Irving Fishbaum, Menachem Yamansky, Dr. Black, Michael, Rabbi Kranz, Ruvain Pollack, Richard Rosenzweig, Ilya Shutman, David Helfgott on Kol HaLoshen. As we are learning tonight is not as detailed as last night. Last night was what they call a humdinger of a detailed Gemara. Tonight, we finish the sugya in Shas of Eved Ivri and start the sugya of Eved Kanani. Another interesting sugya. We are holding now on the bottom of Daf Chaf Aleph and Beis, as we are holding by Toner Rabbanan, 2 lines from the bottom. Toner Rabbanan, 2 lines from the bottom of Daf Chof Aleph and Beis. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. Water is a very good thing. We know water is a very good thing because Torah is compared to water. You know, it's an interesting thing. It says, "V'gam charvoina zocher latayv." Charvoina also should be blessed. So they ask, why should charvoina be blessed? It says that charvoina was really Eliyahu Hanavi. So why should charvoina be blessed? So the Mefarshim say, well, since Eliyahu took the image of charvoina, so charvoina should be blessed. Right? If water is compared to Torah, if Torah is compared to water, that means water has to be a pretty darn good thing. You know, one of the things they say is that Mayim is 2 mems and a yud, and in that way it parallels H2O, 2 of hydrogen and 1 of oxygen. That's why it's 2 mems and 1 yud. Mayim is also a palindrome. It's read backwards and forwards the same. And that's because the water cycle goes backwards and forwards. In other words, the water comes down from the sky, then the sun pumps up the excess vapor, and it comes back down as water. So it's a cycle. That's why Mayim is a palindrome. Anyway, 2 lines from the bottom, as I'm stalling because people are just coming in every minute. Moshe Lehman, Stephen Holtzman, Nachman Chapler. You know, in this year, we get richer by the minute here in this year. Tanu Rabbanan, V'ra'isa ba'shivya. Now, this is the great Torah anomaly of that when you go to battle against Goyim, and there's a seductive woman, so you could take her as a captive, and you could put her through a quickie gerus, and take her as a wife. And as we learned, Dibra Torah Keneged Yetzirah, because if the Torah wouldn't have allowed it, then we would have succumbed to temptation. And since Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ba B'Trunyim B'Yosef, he doesn't ask us more than what we could do, and he knew we wouldn't be able to control ourselves. A woman who throws herself at the mercy of her captive, and she's a seductive beauty, so we're allowed to take her. However, the Gemara now tells us that there are a lot of preconditions. Tan Rabbanan, V'reisa Bashiv, you have to see her in battle. B'shah Shviya, that means that you had to have desired her at the time of battle. If you took her as a captive and then desired her later, it doesn't apply. Eishes, you could take her afilu Eishes Ish, even if she was a married woman. Yefas Toyer, a beauty. So why does it tell us that she's a beauty? Because the Torah speaks because of one's passion. Mutav sheyochlu Yisrael basar temusay shchutais. Now the Gemara tells us elsewhere in Chulin, Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis, that a diseased animal that's dying really shouldn't be eaten. But it's better to shecht it and eat it than eat it as a nevela. It's better to eat it tmusa shchutas when it's a dying animal and you shecht it, va'al yoichlu basar tmusas nevelas, and not eat it if it wasn't shechted. So here too, it's better that she should be converted, and it should be legal, although it's a quickie conversion, but it's better to do it that way than to take her when she's forbidden. V'chashakta, and you desire her. Here it teaches us, even if she's not pretty, but if you desire her, it says beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. If she struck a chord in you, afal pishenana, even if she's not beautiful. But you can only take one. V'loy ba'al b'chaverta. You can't see two beautiful sister captives and take one for yourself and one for your father, or take one for yourself and one for your son. V'loy ba'al b'chaverta. V'lakachta. Now v'lakachta means that likuchen yesh lach ba. You could have Kiddushin with her, even though, as Rashi says, she's not megeyeres midaita. This was not a geiris that she went in on her own volition, which is the normal geiris. So it might be, in your eyes, a questionable geiris, but the Torah says in this case the geiris is acceptable, and there is tvisas Kiddushin with her. L'chal isha, you could take her as a wife. Shelo yikach shtei noshim achas loy ve'achas la'aviv. You can't take two women. Now, earlier it says that you could take one and not another. But maybe you would think you could take one and not two for yourself. But maybe you could take one for yourself and one for your son. Therefore, it says no. L'chal isha shelo yikach shtei noshim. You can't take two women. Achas loy v'achas la'aviv. One for him, one for his father. Or achas loy v'achas l'vnai. V'havesa, and you bring her to your house, and only there you take her. Now, this is not like the Goyish custom. The Goyim would rape the women captives right by battle as a way of showing conquest. So the Torah says no. You can't take her on the battlefield. You're right. I told you Gedalia will be here. Gedalia, emunasecha. We have faith in you. And we welcome in Pesach Zigelman. It's good to have you, Pesach. I will tell you, Pesach, that we are desperately looking to fortify our Olam in Shul. So if there's any way we could get you, if you want a certain coffee, if you want a certain cake, let us know. Also, this is going to be very important because in Yirtzeh Hashem, right after Sukkot, we're going to try to make a mariv, either before or after the shir. So right now we have in the shul already 7 people. So with you it would have been 8, and on the way to a minyan. We're going to try to also get Avram Schenkman down. And of course, Baruch Ian, the only reason why he's not here is he's not feeling well. Otherwise, Baruch would be down here. You know Baruch, he never misses a shir in shul. It's only because he's not feeling well. Right, Baruch? Mitzvah Hashem, when you're feeling better, you're going to be running down over here.
Can I ask a hashkafic question on this tomorrow?
You could try.
Yeah, okay.
Time's up.
And Hashem wouldn't give any, there's something that's impossible for people. But yet, after it's mutter, we say that if a person does all this and everything, still it'll come out that she's going to have a child, that Ben Sarah Morer, and it's all the other things that the other Gemara said about her. They'll send her away. If it's impossible, then why would Hashem want Ben Sarah Morers around?
That's an excellent question. In other words, what Rabbi Kranz is asking is the Torah tells us that if a person takes a Ben Sarah Morer, it's going to lead to all kinds of devastating results, which we learn from the smichas of psukim. It leads to having, if you take a Yifas Torah, you're going to end up having a Ben Sarah Morer, a wayward child. But he says if the person didn't have a choice, then why should it lead to that? He didn't have a choice. What the answer probably is to this ticklish question, if you're ticklish, to this ticklish question, is that obviously there's going to be 10 people at battlefield, and only one is going to want a Yifas Torah. So why is that? Because the makeup of the person at the time made him uncontrollably desire that woman. While there are other people that didn't have that makeup. And therefore the answer is that the Rabbeinu Shalom wants us to work on ourselves that we shouldn't have such a desire from before. Once it's at the point, it's uncontrollable and therefore it's allowed. But not everybody took an Eishes Yifas Torah. And that means that a person has to work on himself before that it shouldn't be a temptation. It's like the Chazal say, Kol mokum she'ata moitze geder erva, sham ata moitze kedusha. It's a Rambam. Wherever you find a hedge against immorality, there you find holiness. So there are people that have a greater holiness, and therefore they are not put in this situation of temptation. You hear what I'm saying? Yes.
I think you could also say that part of the whole allure was you weren't allowed to have her. Once the Torah went ahead and said, if you really want her, you can have her, and that takes away some of the whole allure of it.
Okay, see what Gedalia is doing is Gedalia is saying that we have a desire of mayim genuvim yimtak. Stolen waters are sweet. Mayim genuvim yimtak. By making it not genuvim, by making it not stolen, it helps people not to want to have it. Huh? Pas b'sala. Yeah. Okay. Tan Rabbanan. Back to the Eved that's Nirtza. That means an Eved was working 6 years, and he was married to a shifcha kananis, which was allowed to be given to him, but as soon as he goes free, he loses his shifcha. Now, over 6 years, he could have developed a very big fondness to this shifcha, and he doesn't want to leave. So he can exercise the right of ritzia, to have his ear pierced with an awl, and then he stays until Yomi. So now we're going to learn a lot about this. Tan Rabbanan, Im Amar Yomer Ha'eved. Now it says a double lashon, Im Amar Yomer. So what do we do with this double, Im Amar Yomer? What do we do with this double lashon? Ad sheyomer v'yishna. He has to say once and again, I want to stay. I want to stay. He has to say it twice. But it has to be a very considered declaration. If he said it only when he started, I'm going to want to stay till Yovel, but he didn't say it at the end, he doesn't get pierced with the awl. I don't want to leave. So he has to say it at the time of leaving. If he says it at the end of the 6 years, and he doesn't say it in the beginning, he has to say it while he's still an Evet. Now that is going to beg the question, why does he have to say it in the beginning of the 6th year? At the end of the 6th year, he's also still an Evet. So he's not pierced with an awl. I don't want to go free. My area he obviously can't say it in the beginning, because he has to be able to see ahafti as adoni as ishti ves banai, and in the beginning he wasn't given the shifcha kananis yet. Tefik leidaba'inon, he has to be able to say ahafti as adoni, I love my master as ishti ves banai, my wife and my children from this woman. Veleka, he doesn't have that in the beginning because he wasn't given yet the shifcha kananis, and he certainly didn't have children from her. V'su, furthermore, Amar b'sayf sheish, if he says it at the end of 6 years, v'loy amar b'tchila sheish, and he doesn't say it in the beginning of the 6 years, eino nirtzu shenema ha'eved. He has to still be an Evet. So the Gemara says that doesn't make sense. At the end, he's not an Evet. He's still an Evet at the end. Otu sayf sheish lav evedu. So Amar Rava says, my tchila sheish, what does it mean in the beginning of the 6th year? But tchila is pruta achrayna. There's still left a pruta of work. Because if there's not left a pruta of work, he's not really an Evet anymore, because there's not a pruta of work to do. And my b'sayf sheish, what does it mean at the end? It means when the last moments, when there isn't a pruta yet, because he's ready to leave. B'sayf pruta achrayna. So he has to say it twice, once while he's yet an Evet, and then when he's about to leave. Tan Rabbanan.
What does it have to do with sheish?
Huh?
What does that have?
Because that's when he goes out at sheish.
Oh, tchila sheish.
Tchila sheish means Tchila sheish doesn't mean the beginning of sheish. It means the beginning of the last moment of the 6 years. Well, because it's contrasting it to the Saif, so that's why it says B'tchila. Tan Rabbanan, as we welcome him, Abe Arbach, Ben Zion Cohn, Mordechai Sultan, Shimon Klein. Telling you, we're so rich over here, it's unbelievable with our 24 Zoomers over here. I'm sorry, Menachem Umansky is having connection problems. Now, Tana Rabbana, Loi Isha Ubanim, if the Evet has a wife and children, Ulurabbai Eini Isha Ubanim, but the master is a bachelor, so then he can't stay till Yovel. Einoi Nirtza. Why? Shenemar ki avhevcha ves beisecha. He tells his master, I love you and your house. Your house is your wife. L'rabba yishu banim, if the master has a family, but v'lo yein yishu banim, but he wasn't given a shifcha kananis and doesn't have children from the shifcha, ein a nirtza. Shenemar, he says, ahafti es hadoini es ishti ves banai. I want to stay with my master, my wife, and my children. Hu ayeves rabbi, he loves his master, but the rabbi ain't ayavai. But the master doesn't like him. And the master, after all, remember, this guy was a thief. So maybe he didn't reform. Right? So the master doesn't like him. Ein nirtza. Why? Shenemar ki toiv loy imach. It has to be good for him with you. With you implies that it's good for you too. If he doesn't love him, so it's not good for the master, so then he doesn't go free. Rabbi Yoyava, the master loves him, who ain't Oivis Rabbi, but he doesn't love his master, ain't an nirtza. Why? Because it says, Shenemar ki avhevcha, I love you. If he doesn't love him, he doesn't stay. Hu chayla, if he was sick, v'rabbi einay chayla, the master wasn't sick, ain't an nirtza. Shenemar, because it says, ki toiv lo imach, it's good for him with you. If he was sick, it wasn't good for him. Rabbi chayla, if the master was sick, v'hu einay chayla, ain't an nirtza, because it's not imach. It wasn't good for the master. Shenemar imach.
Wait.
Yes.
We're not quoting any psukim from Mishpatim here, are we?
So what?
Mishpatim comes before Re'eh.
Yeah, but these are the psukim that we're darshaning.
In Mishpatim, Amar Yamar Havara Hatis Adoni. If he doesn't love him, so then what's the whole premise?
Yeah,
I have the same question.
No, but it's telling us where we have the whole sequence. Kitayv lo yimach, it doesn't say in Mishpatim. So it wants to give us the whole package. Why should it skip around in two different places? Now, boy Rabbi Voy Bar Abai, what if they're both sick? Shneim choylemai, imach ba'inan, with you, and they were the same boat. Va'ika. It has to be good, and since he was sick, it wasn't good. Take Tishbi Atar, it's Kush's voice. We don't know if they're both sick, if he could stay till Yovel. Now, the next Russia we already had. To be an Eved Ivri, you get a lot of treatment. As I said, the Eved Ivri can't be put in a room without an air conditioner, and the master has a room with an air conditioner. It ain't going. You can't have a steak and give him a hamburger. You can't have pancakes for breakfast and give him cereal. It's really amazing. You could do that with your kids. Can't do it with an Eved.
Who would want an Eved Ivri?
Huh?
Who would want an Eved Ivri?
Somebody who wants to have a bunch of slaves.
You got to pay for his wife and kids.
But you get a bunch of slaves. It's a big thing. Get a generation of slaves. And it's a mitzvah. You're saving a family.
Who's the mitzvah? On the master?
Yeah. The master has an incredible mitzvah. I had a article. I didn't run it. Shelley, we didn't run it. I think we ran it 3 years ago. You remember the article, Rehabilitating Criminals the Jewish Way? It was a great article. In the article, I contrast the penal system of America to Eved Ivri. You take a crook who robbed the bank, and so you catch him, you throw him in jail. In jail, he learns how to be a bigger crook. He learns in the College of Crime how to crack a safe, where to find a gun, what are the best ways to jack a car. He's in there in the penitentiary for 10 years. What happens to his wife and children? They don't have anybody to take care of him. So they fall into all kinds of problems. What happens to the victim that he stole the money from? He never gets any compensation. And who does all that fall upon? Society to pay for. Now let's see the Torah's way. Torah says here you have a man that stole from somebody. Sell him. Right away the money is used to compensate the victim. The victim is taken care of. Who takes him in? Bezdin only allows a solid family where he's going to learn good things. He's going to learn how to live. What happens to the family? You have to take care of the wife and children. Does this cost society anything? Nada. It's an amazing system of the Torah. And, what?
Let's say he didn't steal that much. Let's say he stole $1,000.
We said if he didn't steal that much, he's not sold.
But he can't pay.
Okay, so then he has to draw up a promissory note and work it off. It's an amazing thing how the Torah makes everything work and to fit. So, but now let's see. Tan Rabbanan ki toiv lo imach. It has to be good for him with you. Imach b'machel, he gets to eat with you food. If you're having filet mignon, he gets filet mignon. Imach b'mishta, if you're having aged wine, he gets aged wine. You can't have white fine bread, and he gets coarse bread. You drink aged wine, you sleep on a duxiana bed, and he sleeps on straw. If you buy an Eved Ivri, it's like you buying a boss. And as we explained already, this is the third time, as we welcome in Howard Kastner, we welcome, I'm not sure who, Yisrael Fisher is in the car. I'm not sure who 718 is. Mo Kushner is joining us now as welcome Mo. So Fisher is driving back to Brooklyn so that he could join us from Brooklyn every single night because it's before Rosh Hashanah and he's doing serious tshuva. Now, you don't only use somebody when you need him, That's not the way to do business. You got to be like Marshall. He comes even though it's hard for him, even though he gets beaten. That's a man for you. Takes a hard man. If I wouldn't know better, I would say he works in a car shop. The reason why he's an Odain La'atzmai is because if, let's say, he has only one duxiana bed, he has to give it to the servant. It's an amazing thing. You'll say, so nobody will sleep on it. No. If he only has one duxiana bed, he can't sleep on it. Because it says, Kitov lo yimach.
He's living in the house?
He's living in the house.
He's eating at the table with the family?
Well, he could give him another table, as long as it's a nice table. He could give him another table.
Yeah, okay.
It has to be a nice table. But the reason why, if he only has a one air-conditioned room, he has to give it to the Eved, is because he can't sleep in it, because it has to be Tov La'yimach. If he can't sleep in it, and he doesn't give it to the Eved, that's Midas Daim. Because Midas Daim is Zen and Nevezalei Chassid. That one benefits and the other one doesn't lose. He doesn't lose anything because he can't sleep on it anyway. So he might as well give it to so he only has one duxiana bed, he has to give it to the Eved. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. He only has, if his wife made one steak, got to give it to the Eved. He has to eat a frank. It's an amazing thing. See, Barish is thinking now twice about getting an Eved. I know. Yeah. If they only have one hot dog and Cheerios, you got to eat the Cheerios.
They go good together.
Yeah. Now, Tan Rabbanan, v'yotza me'ima hu ubanav imai, and they go out with you, he and his children. Now, obviously, when it says his children, it means his biological children, because it doesn't mean the children from the Shivcha, because the children from the Shivcha belong to the Yadai. So Amar Rab Shimon, imhu nimkar, if he was sold, banav u'bnaisav min nimkarim, if the sons and the daughters were they sold, what's the chiddush that they go out? Oh, it means that until now the Adon had to support them. Mikan shirabay chayav b'mezainas banav, that until now the master had to support them. Kayotzi b'davar, similarly, at the Omer, im bal ishahu, if he was married to a Beis Yaakov girl, v'yotze ishtayima, the wife goes out with him. Again, it's not the shifcha doesn't go out with him, but it means his wife. So the Gemara says, well, what should the wife do? Stay there? Amar Rav Shimon, if he was sold, was his wife sold? So what do you mean if the wife goes out? She never was in. Says he had to support the wife all 6 years. V'tzricha. And we need a lesson that he had to support the sons, and we need a lesson that he had to support the wife. Diyash min banav, the sons. That's because the children can't work and take care of themselves. Mishum deloy bnei me'aven mechaninu. They can't work and support, so therefore, since the father is a slave, the other has to take care of the children. Aval ishtay the bas mechaninu me'avedu, she could go out and work, she could take a job. Maybe doesn't have to support her. That she should work and support herself. That's because a wife can't go out and beg. Because it's not sneeristic for a woman to go out and beg. It's not sneers for her to go out and beg for money. But the children that could go out and beg, he might not have to support them. Tzricha, that he has to support them too. Tan Rabbanan. Wow, we're already turning the page. Look at that.
His wife, the wife's been living in a separate location?
No, she's living in the house.
In the house?
He has to give her room and board.
And so you got the original wife plus the new wife.
That's correct.
And they're side by side. Okay.
You know, my Rebbetzin, Aleh Shalom, told me that when she was a teenager, she went with her mother to the home of the Baba Sali. And in the house, she tells me that she remembers that there were separate bedrooms for 2 wives in the house. Tan Rabbana, as I said, you know, there was people on a higher level that were able to do that. Both the women and the men were able to do it. You know, that's not something that is possible by us anymore. That's why we have a Cherem D'Rabbeinu Gershon. Tan Rabbana. Ilu nemar oznoi badelas. If it would say his ear in the door, I would say that you don't have to pierce the ear at all. I would say that you could let him lean his ear on the door, and the Adain will pierce the door on the opposite side, opposite the ear, but not pierce the ear at all. I might think, Delis in Oznoi Lai. So the Gemara says, how could you think that? V'oizen Lai, not the ear, v'ksivaratz adonaves Oznoi b'matzeya. It says, clearly, you have to pierce the ear with an awl. Ella ha'yisi aimer yirtze'ena le'oizen mavroi. You could pierce the ear somewhere else. On the operating table. V'yanichena al hadeles, and then place it on the door. V'yidkar keneged oznoi bedeles, and then opposite the ear on the other side, pierce the door. Talmud Leimer Bo'oz Noyu Bedelis. You have to do the ear together with the door. Okay, you pierce the ear all the way through, Ad Shemagia Eitzel Delis, until you reach the door. Delis, the door, Sheme'ani Bein Akura Bein She'ein Akura. I might think whether the door is attached by the hinges, or even if it's lying on the ground. Talmud Leimer Mezuzah. It says Delis or the doorpost. Ma Mezuzah Ma'umid, it's standing upright. Af Delis Nami Ma'umid, it's also the door is standing upright, attached to the house. Now here the Gemara tells us why do we pierce the ear, and why by the door. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai hayedoresh es hamikra hazeh kemin chaymer. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai darshened this pasuk like a pouch. That's a very queer is not the right word. Today, we don't use the word queer. By the way, I'm looking around the room. I really want to thank everybody for coming. I'm really, and try to get other people to come. It's really a good thing to have a camaraderie in the night. It really is. I mean, if Ruvain Pollack could come, he would come. It's just that he's island bound, as he said. Right, Ruvain? If you could materialize here, you would come.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, if he had, what did the Star Trek call that? How did you do it?
Beam me up.
Oh, if he would be able to be beamed here,
Yeah.
a transporter, he would come every night. Every night. Anyway, so would Irving.
As I did when the road was in Staten Island.
Yeah. So would Irving. Irving would.
Right?
Yes, 100%. Shelley would beam himself up too. I have to work on that. Shelley.
Idea. Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, Shelley, I'll put you on that. I'll give you a week. Anyway, who was that? Scotty? Scotty was in charge of that? Scotty. Yes. Here's to the youngest. Here's to the youngest. Now, long ago that is. Wow. Jeez. 60s, yeah. Yeah, that's before
64.
That's before bar mitzvah.
And you didn't know that Spock was a Kohen back then, did you?
Spock used to come on my Zoom. Now. Yeah.
Reminded me of the documentary Rashi. I think Spock said Rashi.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. Really?
They wanted to hire a kid to teach them how to do the sing-song of the Mishnah.
Yeah.
He said, I learned in yeshiva. I know how to do the sing-song of the Mishnah.
Really? Really? Well, Ellie Teitelbaum used to have Stephen Hill on Dial-A-Shir from Mission Impossible. He used to tell stories to the children. He's not alive anymore.
I think he was Mrs. Salmon's uncle.
I used to daven with Stephen Hill in Muncie.
In Muncie.
Yeah.
He's not alive anymore.
I don't think so.
No, he's not. Hi, Eli Teitelbaum. Zichraynu Livracha, Schisi Yagan Aleinu. Eli Teitelbaum was the father of mass communication. We gotta mute Yisrael Fisher. We don't want, he's busy doing tshuva for all the years that he missed the daf, and it's hard to do with the shoulder strap al chait, but he's trying. Okay, now, so I rudely interrupted myself. I was telling you about the unusual use of the word chomer. At least the way Rashi learns, it's a chomer is a pouch that Rashi says snugly contains pearls or snugly contains besamim. Gemara tells us in Masechta Shabbos there were certain women that had a foul body odor. So they used to have a pocket of besamim lodged by their chest in order to diffuse the odor. Now, this snug pouch is a metaphor. That's the best way to explain it. It's a metaphor to show how the use of the ear fits perfectly with the symbolism. How? Let's see. Rabbi Yochanan Zakei Yidorish es hamikra hazeh min chomer. Ma nishtana oizen mikol ha'ivarim. Why do we pierce his ear? Mikol ha'ivarim should be good. Maybe we should pierce his finger. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, oizen sheshama koili al Har Sinai. The ear that heard my voice at Har Sinai b'shah she'amarti ki li b'nei Yisrael avodim. That Klal Yisrael is to me a servant. V'lo avodim la'avodim. And not servants to servants. You're not supposed to be a servant to another human. And he went ahead and chose to stay until Yovel and have a master, Yeratza. That ear should be pierced.
What about someone who sold himself?
What?
This person who sold himself, that's the same thing?
Right, so there we say that he needed it for the money. He was desperate. So we don't have such a time on him. But now he said because he loves it. Now, as we welcome in Yehuda from Yerushalayim, Reb Shimon bar Rebbe hayadorish es hamikra hazeh min chaymer. He has another symbolism. Why do we do it by the door and the doorpost? The door and the doorpost. There were witnesses in Mitzrayim when I passed over ala mashkef on the lintel, which had the blood of the Korban Pesach. That now you are my servants, as I freed you, and not servants to servants. I took you out from bondage to freedom. And he went ahead and put himself back into bondage. It should be pursed in front of the doorway and the lintel.
Just like the jewelry and the spices fit perfectly.
Right,
in the pouch.
right. So this fits perfectly. That's Rashi's pshat. Okay, now Rabbi said we start anew. Remember, I gave you Akdama when we learned Evet Ivri that it was the sugya in Shas about Evet Ivri. This is true now. This is the sugya in Shas about Evet Kanani. It's really very, very exciting. So we know that we can buy a Canaanite slave. So Evet Kanani nikna bekesef u b'shtar b'chazaka. An Evet Kanani can be acquired with money, with a shtar. That means that the Odon is given a shtar that he owns the Evet from the one that he buys it from. Or b'chazaka, and by an act of service. An act of service that the Evet does for him, which shows that he now possesses him as an Odon. Yeah. Shtar is, let's say, somebody sells you this Evet Kanani.
Because you gave him money to buy the evidence.
Not about money. Shtar works without money.
Oh, so he just gave him. Son,
Right.
And this, the shtar is the proof
Right.
of ownership.
Right.
I thought we were supposed to destroy the Canaan.
What?
I thought we were supposed to destroy.
Okay, we're going to talk in the Gemara what Canaanite we have to say lo yischai kol neshama. We're going to talk about that. That's going to be a big sugya in the Gemara. Now, v'koines atzmai, how does he acquire his freedom? B'kesef al yedei acherim, if somebody gives money on his behalf, because he can't have money because kol ma'asher kana evet kana baila. Or if the master gives him a writ of emancipation and it can give it to him because gito v'yodei boin ke'echad. That's the first opinion in the Mishnah. Divrei Meir. The Chacham Maim in the reverse. B'kesef al yedei atzma. He could acquire himself with money if somebody gave him money al manashe ein l'rabbi rishus bay. Or b'shtar al yedei acherim. And a writ of emancipation that he gives to somebody else on behalf of the Eved. According to the Chachamim, the money had to be given from someone else. We'll see more about this in the Gemara. The first thing we have to know is, how do we know that you could acquire an Eved with all of the kinyonim used for karka? Because real estate is bought b'kesef, b'shtar, b'chazaka. So how do you know that this applies to avodim as well? So it says Manolan, "Dichsivis nachaltem oisam lebneichem achreichem." You could transmit your avodim to your children after you, l'reshes achuza, for an inheritance of possession. Oh, so it compares an evet to achuza. Achuza is land. Hekishin akasav l'stei achuza, mastei achuza nikna b'kesav v'b'shtar v'chazaka. So af evet kanani nikna b'kesav v'b'shtar v'chazaka. Says Gemara, im mastei achuza chayzeres l'ba'alim b'yovel. It returns to the owners at the Jubilee. I might think af evet kanani chayzer l'ba'alim b'yovel. If you bought your evet from somebody else, maybe it should return to that person at Yovel. That you get to work them forever. Tana, we learned in the Braisa, af b'chalipin, you could acquire an Evet Kanani also with a Kinyan Suda. I could take a handkerchief, give it to the previous owner, and say, in lieu of this, I should get the Evet. So it says the Gemara, then why doesn't our Mishnah say Chalipin? The Tana Didan, our Tana says only things that doesn't work by movables. Milsa the leise b'metalton and ketani. Milsa the isa b'metalton. Movables can be acquired with chalipin, and therefore like ketani. Amar Shmuel, now Shmuel says another way. You know, the din is that if you have what's called shlife mitzeh, a intermediate bundle, you have a sack of potatoes. So it's not easy to lift it up. So davar she'ein darka b'hagva niknes b'meshicha. You acquire pulling it. Says the Gemara, Amar Shmuel, Eved Kanani nikna b'meshicha. Could it be acquired by pulling him to you? Keitzad, takfa, you grab a hold of him. Uba etzlai, and he comes to you, kanai. Karu uba etzlai, if you summon him and he comes, loy kanai. The Gemara is going to say that because there he came on his own volition, so that's not Meshicha. So our Tana doesn't say Meshicha because Meshicha works with Metalton. We said our Tana doesn't say something that says by Metalton. Bishlam and the Tani done milsa the Isa be Metalton like Katani. It doesn't say something that's by Metalton, and that's why it doesn't say Chalipin, and that's why it doesn't say Meshicha. The leisim and metalton tani, it only says kesef shtar chazaka that don't work by metalton. El the tana bra that says chalipin, he should also say meshicha. Nisnei meshicha. Says Gemara kikatani milsa the isa bein b'makar koi bein b'metalton. The tana the Braisa only says something that's by both karka and metalton. So chalipin is by both karka and metalton. But Meshicha is not by karka. Meshicha the metalta isam b'karka lesa like ketani. So now let's review this. We said Meshicha is only if you grab the Eved and you schlep him to you. If you call him, summon him, come here, and he comes, that's not Meshicha. Ketani, Ketzad, Takfa Yubayatzai, if you grab him and he came, Kana. Kara Yubayatzai, if you summoned him and he came, like Kana. Says the Kara Lai, summoning is not good, but by an animal we say it is good. Now, Sugin Bava Basra says if an animal is huge, like an elephant, you could acquire him by handing over the reins. That's called Masira. It's a big animal, you can't even budget. You could acquire by handing over the reins. So the Gemara says, Ketzad b'Masira, Ogza b'Tolfa. If you pass the hoof over, B'Sara, the hair, B'Ukav Shaleh, the saddle, B'Shlif Shaleh, with the saddle bags, B'Prumya Shebapia, the bit in its mouth, B'Zug Shebetzavara, or you pass over the bell around its neck, so the seller hands it to the buyer, Kana. Ketzad b'Mashicha, what's considered pulling it? Kaira la v'hiba, if you summon it and it comes, Oishe kisha b'makal, or you hit it with a stick, v'ratza l'fanav, kevin she'akra yad v'rega, once it moves one foreleg and hind foot, kana. It has to move its entire length. But here you see summoning works. So the Gemara says, yeah, because imrei behema adata demoraz, an animal that doesn't have an independent das, when you bark at it and it comes, it's coming because of you. Eved adata denafshe kasel. The Eved exercised his own free will. That's not considered taking possession. Amar Ravashi, Eved cotton, a minor child, minor Eved k'behemedami. It's like an animal that if you call it, bark at it, and it comes, you acquire it. Tan Rabbanan. This is, again, all the rudimentary laws of Eved Kanani. Really, this is the source all over Shas for all of these halachas. All of these halachas. By the way, we are coming up to some thrilling Gemaras. When we finish the sugya of Evet Kanani, we're going to be learning about Kibbud of Aim and all kinds of fascinating Gemaras. We're going to have 3 blot completely about Kibbud of Aim. This is a spectacular time for people to start Daf Yomi. It really is. You should bring your friends. Shelly, get a busload. Marshall, it's Bourbon City.
I got no friends.
I could understand that. I'm sorry. But I say we should all daven for Marshall. Tarabana. Ketzad b'chazaka. How do you acquire an Eved with chazaka? Hitter loy min olay. If the Eved unties your shoes, or he carries your bath apparel to the bathhouse. If Shita, he helps you undress. Hirchitza, he bathes you. Sacho, he anoints you. Gerdu, he gives you scrapes off the dead skin. Hilbisha, he helps you get dressed. Hinilu, he puts your shoes on you. Higviu, he lifts you up onto the bed. Kanai. Any act that he does such as a menial service for you, shows that he's your slave and you acquire him. Amar Reb Shimon loitei chazaka gedola me'agva. Now Reb Shimon, I'm going to give you a scoop. Reb Shimon is responding to the implication it's only if he lifts you up. But if you lift him up, you don't acquire him. Now that's very difficult. Because if Mashiach is kaina, Hagva should certainly be kaina. Remember we learned there's a kinyan Masira, there's a kinyan Mashiach, there's also a kinyan Hagva. And Hagva is the daddy of all kinyanim. It says Hagva kaina b'kol makom. When you lift something up, it brings it in your possession, even in the rishus of the meicher, even the property of meicher. Mashiach doesn't work in the domain of the seller, but Hagva works. So Reb Shimon doesn't like the inference. It's only if he picks you up, but if you pick him up, you don't acquire him. I'm a Reb Shimon like take chazak gedolim Hagva. Hagva kaina b'chol makom. Hagva is a great kinyan. It acquires everywhere. Now, at first glance, Reb Shimon doesn't make sense. What is he talking about Hagva? Nobody mentioned anything about Hagva. Micah Amar, what's he talking about? Amar Rav Ashi is talking about an inference. It's only if he lifted the Rebbe onto the bread, the master onto the bed, he acquires him. But Rabbi, if the master picks him up, like Kana. Amar Shimon says, why? Chazaka shouldn't be better than Hagva. Hagva kaina b'chol makom. So now the Gemara asks a clever question. It says here that if he lifts up the master acquires him. Then it should be that you should acquire a shifcha with bia. We said you can't acquire a shifcha with bia. But why not? When you have relations with her, she's lifting your body. She's doing a service for you. So asks the Gemara, that if he lifted the master in a service, the master acquires him. He should acquire her with bia. Since when she has bia with him, she's lifting him up. Says the Gemara, no, that's only a service. That's a pleasure for the master, but not a pleasure for the Eved. The Eved doesn't like bathing him. The Eved doesn't like bringing the bath apparel to the bathhouse. It's only a Ma'is Chazaka when the Adam has pleasure and the Eved is distressed. If they're having sex, the maidservant is also enjoying herself. That's not an act of chazak. So the Gemara says, but he should acquire her. He should acquire her if they have unnatural sex. Because that's not a pleasure for her, it's only a pleasure for him. And she's lifting him up. So here the Gemara tells us, who says that anal sex is not a pleasure for the women? Amar Rav Achia ba'ada the minacha man leimalon the lav hano islu l'travayim. Who says that's not a pleasure to the woman? The ayin, and furthermore, the two are juxtaposed. Mishkevei isha ksiv hekisha akasav kedarka l'shaloi kedarka. So the same rules that apply to regular apply to unnatural. And since you can't acquire with regular, you can't acquire with unnatural either. Okay, good job into Evet Kanani. You don't want to miss a beat, Rabbi Yisrael. So just stay in the car until tomorrow night. And we're going to learn now the Mishnah Yomis. Thank you everybody for coming. Please everybody come tomorrow with a partner.